Make some noise for your amazing host.
Welcome back to another week here at the gallery. I'm Joelle, and it's been an honor to be your tour guide during your visit here. So far, you've seen some various self-portraits done by some famous painters, paintings that doubled as optical illusions, and art done with different mediums or materials. You're soaking up all sorts of creative and artistic information, and you're probably pretty wise at this point. There's still more to see, so let's check in with our exhibit curator, Mr. Coyote, and find out what we will be viewing today.
Coming up.
Find out how some art is just a pigment of your imagination on the gallery.
Looks like we're going to need our imagination for today's art lesson. Before we can check out that exhibit, let's take a look at the things you'll see before then. First, we'll watch a pre-show video, then we will worship together, and then listen to today's Bible story. Before you head out on the tour, select the download button below this video to access your Get Real guide. Inside, you will find a map of the gallery, some questions to think about, and other information to keep you up to date with exhibit information and events. Before we move any further, let's check out this video.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Mail Time. Now, Owen, you have a really cool talent that I want you to show off right now. I'm gonna do it with you. You're really good at making your eyebrows go up and down. Can we see it right now? Okay, let's do it together. Oh, so good. Do you know how to do your lips too? Can you do it? Well, we have a lot of fun in store, so it is time to open our mail. So our first letter comes from Lake Arrowhead. Shout out to our Lake Arrowhead campus.
What's up, Arrowhead?
Good job, Owen. And our first letter is from Nathan. Dear Sandals Church kids, my name is Nathan and I am 11 years old. Thank you for teaching me about God. I love each episode equally. And Owen, what did he draw right there?
A fisherman.
Yeah, he drew a fisherman. I love that drawing, Nathan. And then we have a letter from Joshua, and Joshua drew a baseball cap. So awesome. And he says that he loves the videos where we're worshiping God. Joshua, I love those videos too. I hope that you guys are having a great time up at Lake Arrowhead, and hopefully we'll be able to visit soon. You want to go up to Lake Arrowhead? You know it snows there, right? Do you like the snow? Yeah. All right, so our next letter is from Liv, and she drew a unicorn, but she drew a unicorn underneath a rainbow. What do you think?
That looks awesome.
I agree, Owen. It looks super awesome. But Liv, can I tell you something? I feel like this unicorn under the rainbow almost looks like it's a cave, like it's a rainbow cave, and that gets my creative juices flowing. Liv, thank you so much for your letter. Now I love our next letter. It's from Ava, and Owen, Ava just drew a ton of images. She has all of these smiley faces, so if you look really close, look at that. You can see a bunch of smiley faces, a bunch of circles, and it all forms into a face. So awesome, thank you for your drawing. So our next letter is from Jordan, which is my name, but I didn't actually write this letter, and I'm super excited to read it to you. Owen, what is that?
SpongeBob on a pig.
Yeah, Jordan drew a picture of SpongeBob on a pig. It says, Dear Sandals Church kids, my name is Jordan and I am 10 years old. I love watching you guys draw and dance, and my favorite movie is The Incredibles. I hope you like my drawing of SpongeBob riding a pig. And Jordan, yes, I do. That is so fun. We're gonna make sure to put this on our wall. For all of you who sent letters today, we love getting to read them, getting to respond to them, drawing with you guys, and hearing about your lives. And we can't wait to see what you come up with next.
Artists, let's take a time out from our tour today and enter into a time of worship. We will now head on up to the music history exhibit, and once inside, you can find your spot. And make sure others around you have plenty of space so that you can follow the motions, clap, or even kneel if that feels right. Let's go ahead and worship together.
Only the Lord gives wisdom, knowledge and understanding come from Him. Only the Lord Basically, Joshua said, wait, God has greatness lined up for you. You're gonna see it soon, get ready. God has greatness lined up for you. You're gonna see it soon. Then Joshua told the people, make yourself holy for the Lord. Tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things. Make yourself holy for the Lord. Tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. Hold on. Hold on. Basically, Joshua said, wait, God has greatness lined up for you. You're gonna see it soon, so get ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. God has greatness lined up for you. You're gonna see it soon. Then Joshua told the people, make yourself holy for the Lord. Tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things. Make yourself holy for the Lord. Tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. Make yourself holy for the Lord. Tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things. Make yourself holy for the Lord. Tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you.
So what makes me holy? Yeah, what makes me holy? Only Jesus makes me holy. Only Jesus makes me holy. And I don't run the race for a trophy. I'm spending time with the God that wants to know me. Knowing Jesus is the thing that makes me holy. So I will face my circumstances boldly. Joshua told me,
Make yourself holy for the Lord. Tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things. Make yourself holy for the Lord. Tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. Hold on. Hold on. Then Joshua told people, make yourself holy for the Lord. Tomorrow will do amazing things among you.
In the story gallery today, we're talking about how God's on the Job from our story in Job 38, verse 1 through 21. While we wander through that exhibit, we'll learn that wisdom is more than just knowing facts and that real wisdom comes from God. As we examine this week's masterpiece, we'll see how God knows what I don't, and that means we can respect God's wisdom. So grab your palette and paintbrush in 3, 2, 1.
All right, artists, let's go ahead and head into Gallery G to see the next collection of sculpture and pottery. Now, this is a collection of kintsugi, a special form of Japanese art. I want you to go ahead and take a second to observe and then tell me what you notice. How do you think this was made? Nicely done. And did you notice that all the pieces seem to have been broken at one point and then put back together? Kintsugi is the Japanese art of fixing broken pottery with gold. It comes from the idea that things that are broken can be fixed and made even more beautiful instead of just thrown away. The pottery actually becomes stronger and more beautiful after it shatters because of the gold repairs. And did you know that God can use what's broken and wrong in our lives to make us stronger and more beautiful? Well, come on and see what I mean. Last week, we heard that the book of Proverbs is full of wise sayings that will help us live life God's way. Today, we're going to look at a book in the Bible called Job. And the very first chapter tells us that Job was a good and an honest man who honored God and stayed away from evil. God had blessed his family and made him successful. But then something happened. God allowed Job's life to completely fall apart, and Job lost everything. Job lost his success and everything he had worked so hard for. His land and his home and even his family were all taken away from him. The rest of the story shows us how Job struggled to understand why God allowed this to happen to him, even though it wasn't fair. He knew that God was a good and a fair God, so why does he sometimes let bad things happen to good people? Well, what happens next is pretty incredible. God himself answers Job through a poem.
Then the Lord answered Job from the storm. He said, "Who is this that makes my purpose unclear by saying things that are not true? Be strong like a man. I will ask you questions and you must answer me. Where were you when I made the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off how big it should be? Surely you know. What were the earth's foundations set on? Or who put its cornerstone in place? Who did all this while the morning stars sang together? Who did this while the angels shouted with joy? Who shut the doors to keep the sea in when it broke through and was born? This was when I made the clouds like a coat for the sea, and I wrapped the sea in dark clouds. It was when I put limits on the sea, and I put its doors and bars in place. It was when I said to the sea, you may come this far, but no farther. This is where your proud waves must stop. Have you ever gone to where the sea begins, or have you ever walked in the valleys under the sea? Have the gates of death been opened to you, or have you seen the gates of the deep darkness? Do you understand the great width of the earth? Tell me if you know all these things.
So that is pretty powerful stuff. God creates this beautiful poem about how he made the entire universe, from the sky to the land to the ocean, out of nothing before anything else existed. And he reminds Job that he has not only perfect knowledge of everything that ever has, does, and will happen in the universe, but also that he has total power and control over it too. And then God asks Job if he has ever done anything close to that. Well, of course Job hasn't. He wasn't in charge of the universe, he was just a human. And that's the point. The difference between humans and God is that we can only see a tiny part of the enormous universal picture that God sees. Life is way more complex and complicated than we could ever fully understand. So God asks us to have faith and have total trust in him, even when things just don't make sense or don't even seem fair to us. And that's why the one thing to remember is that God knows what I don't.
Welcome back, artists, to the exhibition hall. This is the spot where we're gonna look at some of the most famous art of all time and how these works can remind us of how to be wise. So we just learned about how God knows way, way more than we ever could, and how that means we can trust that he knows what he's doing even when things are hard. Now, it reminds me a little bit about an art style called pointillism. Now, pointillism is when an artist uses teensy tiny dots of color that when combined create an entire picture. So let's observe a few right now. So this first painting is called Sunday Afternoon on the island of La Grande Jatte. When you look at it, it might look like other paintings you've seen before, but when you look really close, you see that everything is made up of these teeny, tiny dots. And if you look even closer, you might notice that the green grass right there is actually made up of 3 different colors, green and blue, and even yellow. Now here's another one called Morning Interior of a Man Inside His Room. This one is fantastic. I can't even imagine how long that took to paint. But if you look close, it all just kind of looks like globs of paint. Like if you look really close up there, it would just be a bunch of these random dots everywhere. Now this next one is called The Beach at Amblatus at low tide. If you look closely, you might notice that that purpley pink cloud is actually made up of blue and red. I love that. Now this next one is Portrait of Felix Fénéon. It's really interesting. Lots of super bright colors and different lines, but again, if you actually were to walk up close to this painting and you looked, these lines aren't lines at all, just a bunch of dots. If all you could see was a small, very close-up portion of these paintings, then all you would see are dots. It would look random and it wouldn't make any sense at all. And that's because you would be looking at the bigger picture the artist intended for you to see. Sometimes we can do the same thing in our lives, especially when we are going through something difficult. When something hard happens in our lives, we can focus on just that one thing. It feels like a huge deal at the time, so we forget that we are known and loved by someone who can see the bigger picture, God. Sometimes God allows things to happen in our lives that are hard for us to understand. But that's okay because we can trust that God does understand. We might not get to know why things happen, but real wisdom is knowing we can still trust that God is in total control. And that's why our action step for today is that we can respect God's wisdom.
Hey, my name's Zach, and I love drawing. And I want to tell you about a time I respected God's wisdom even when I had to accept what I was going through was something difficult. So when I was in 3rd grade, I used to walk with my brother every single day to school. When we'd look at our trading cards and our pogs, and we'd have a ton of fun talking with one another. But one day there was this kid, and he was like a foot taller than me. And he started calling me names. And I ignored him at first because I didn't want to get into a fight with him. Well, he made fun of my brother, and I've read a lot of comics, and so my thought was, I need to stand up for him. So I stood up to him and I was like, hey, you don't make fun of my brother. But this kid was like half a foot taller than me, so it was more like a, you can't make fun of my brother. Well, he didn't like that very much, so he pushed me to the ground. I remember the next week just feeling really, really upset about what he did, and I'd see him on the playground, he'd be laughing and joking with other kids, and I felt really angry that he did that to me. Well, a week later, I was sitting at the tables drawing like I usually do and eating my lunch, and he walked up to me. He walked up to me and he said, hey, you like drawing? And he pointed at my drawings, and for a moment there, I felt like he was kind of my enemy. But something came over me, and I remember that, Jesus talked about, praying for our enemies and loving our enemies, and that's something that the world doesn't really tell us to do. If you have an enemy and you don't like them, you ignore them, or you say mean things behind their back. But I remember what Jesus said, so in that moment I felt like maybe I should give him a chance. And so I spoke to him and I said, yeah, I like drawing. And he was like, oh, I love drawing too, but I'm not really good. He's like, could you teach me? And man, I was like, the kid who hurt me a week ago wants me to teach him how to draw drawings. And after a while, we were laughing and joking, and I was showing him some cool techniques with my drawings. And then we wound up starting a drawing club. And then there were 3 other kids who joined. And it was so cool because someone who was essentially my enemy wound up becoming a good friend throughout all of 3rd grade. So just like I listened to God's wisdom and loved my enemies, even though it was hard, you guys can respect God's wisdom too.
Well, doors are about to close here at the gallery, so it's time to look at our series memory verse from Proverbs 2:6. Only the Lord gives wisdom. Knowledge and understanding come from him. We saw in our story how God asked Job and us to trust him even when life gets difficult. The best part of Job's story is that in the end, God didn't just leave him, but he redeemed or gave back what Job had lost. He got a new family, new home, and new successes, even better than what he had. Job respected that God knew what he was doing, and God came through for him. That's why the one thing to remember is that God knows what I don't, and that means we can respect God's wisdom. You can live out the vision of being real with yourself, God, and others by opening up your Get Real guide to the Now What. Grab some paper and colored pencils, markers, or crayons. Pick something to draw and use pointillism to do it. Pointillism is drawing by only using tiny dots of color instead of lines. Try it out and remember that God sees the big picture so you can respect His wisdom. You're always a guest here at the gallery, and I'll see you next week for our final tour.